Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to play this board game called Xiangqi, also known as Chinese chess. Let's take a look. The board design is very interesting, right? You have looks like 8 by 9 squares, and you notice like group of squares that form a horizontal line halfway are connected. These lines do not go through, but it doesn't matter that much. However, we're not going to be playing on the squares, we're actually playing on the intersections by these points. So it means it consists of 9 by 10 playable board. Now let's get into the movement of the pieces. Here is a chariot, and they're placed on the corners, and they move just like the rook. So it moves any number of spaces forwards, backwards, left or right, just like the rook, right? And next, this piece is a horse. It's like a knight, right? And it starts over here next to the rook, and it moves just like the knight. One space orthogonally like that, followed by one space diagonally away from its previous position. So it's like the knight's move, right? One along the line and then one diagonal. One along the line, one diagonal. You see, that's the knight's move. But the only difference is the horses can be blocked. So let's say this piece is here. This horse cannot go through and move into here or here. So the difference between this knight and the knight from Western chess is that this horse can be blocked. So it means it cannot get to jump over any pieces in its path. So that's a difference in Chinese chess. Next piece, this is your elephant. It starts right here. Elephant moves exactly 2 spaces in any diagonal directions, like this. And it's not a very strong move, is it? But you notice when you have 2 elephants from the starting positions, notice that they do connect to each other. And the interesting rule about elephants, when elephants get to this point here, elephants cannot go over the river. This is a river, by the way. The group of squares that are connected together, as I mentioned from the beginning. And if elephants cannot go over the river, they can actually move into 7 possible positions. So if you don't believe me, I'll count for you. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you see, elephants are considered to be the defensive type of pieces since they have to stay in their own territories all the time. And next we have an advisor, guardians of the fortress. The fortress is actually this special area with the diagonal lines that form an X. And they start on the back corners of the fortress. Same thing for the other one. And they move 1 space diagonally along the fortress, along the diagonal lines, in any diagonal directions. However, the rule for the advisor, they may never leave the fortress. So if you see here, when they move up here to the center, they can move into any of the 4 diagonal directions. And when they move up here, they cannot leave the fortress. And also, they cannot move 1 space forwards, backwards, left or right. They can only move in any diagonal directions, which means consisting of 5 positions they can move into. And next, this piece here is a king. By the way, it is not a king, it's actually called a general in Chinese chess. And this piece is acting, although really acting like a king, because generals are actually the most important pieces of the game in Chinese chess. and they move one space orthogonally, one forward, backwards, left or right. And like the advisors, they may not leave the fortress either. So they can move here, 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 and here, but they can never ever leave the fortress. Okay, so that's the general. And those pieces are set up symmetrically like that. Now I'm going to show you the most interesting piece. This one is called a cannon. The cannon actually also moves like a rook. Woohoo! See that? But, however, when they want to make a capture, let's say we have these two, I'm going to go ahead and capture the enemy piece. I can by jumping over one piece and capture. So that's how cannons capture in this game. And one thing, I cannot move my cannon to jump over my other cannon and just land onto any of these vacant points. I only have to jump over and land onto an enemy piece to make a capture. And because when I decide not to capture, I just simply move my cannon like a rook, right? So a cannon moves like a rook when not capturing, but it jumps over one piece to capture only. However, by saying this, a cannon cannot jump over two pieces to make a capture. That's not allowed. I cannot jump over two pieces to capture this enemy piece, but I can capture this one because that's the result of jumping over one piece. Alright, so that's the rule for cannons. Cannons will start on these 2 points with markings on it. That's where the cannon starting positions are. Okay, the last remaining type of piece is this one. They're called soldiers, and they're like pawns, right? And they start on the remaining 5 points with markings, just like what you saw on the cannons. And these 5 points with markings, that's where the soldiers start. And that's the same on the other side. Soldiers, they move one space forward at a time, like this. However, once they cross the river, not only they can move one space forward, but they also can get to move forward one space left or right, like that. And when they get to the final rank of the board, they do not actually promote, unlike Western chess. But although they can still move sideways, right? However, the only direction they cannot move is backwards. They cannot retreat back. And also, soldiers, unlike Western chess, they don't capture diagonally forward, they just capture forward directly in front of them. Or if they are in the opponent's territory, they can capture pieces directly beside them. Does it make sense? Okay, so the setup starts like this. I'll get all of my pieces on. So you notice it is red versus black. So that's how you start. Okay, I'll explain to you with the special rules. And the special rule is 2 generals are not allowed to directly face each other on the same file with no pieces in the way. And instead, they must always have at least one intervening piece at all times. It's because this one also happens to be in check. Pretty strange, right? Okay, if that's so, I'll show you the example of the checkmate you may not believe. Okay, so let's say I move my red chariot over For instance, this is checkmate. And why is it checkmate? This red chariot is challenging this black general, but the red general is actually preventing this general from moving over like this. Because that's, I said before, it's like creating a situation of two generals facing each other. So that equals checkmate, no escape. However, when you want, while playing this game, when winning the game, you don't have to force your opponent in checkmate. It can be stalemate. So let's say, for instance, like this one, I move my chariot over here. I'm not actually aligned with the general, but black has no legal move. So that means black has lost the game too. So you win the game by checkmate or stalemate. Normally in chess, stalemate is equal a draw or tie, right? But in Chinese chess, stalemate is still actually a victory for you. And also when there's for example, a method of a checkmate. So I'm now gonna sort the pieces. And you know, I'm one move away from checkmating my opponent. And while playing the game, you're not allowed to put your opponent in potential check in the same repetition. For example, the black chariot tries to checkmate my red general. Check, check, check. You are not allowed to do that. You've got to do something else. So I guess black moves up here. Okay, I forced my opponent checkmate. So black loses because he's not allowed to put check in repetition on my red general. This black general cannot capture my red soldier because it's going to be aligning with facing directly to my red general. And also, black general cannot move down here or to the sideways because it's controlled by my other soldier. Therefore, that's checkmate. Alright, so I think that's about it for the rules of how to play Xiangqi, Chinese chess. I hope you enjoy listening to the rules. Thank you for watching.